Hello, I'm Omar Pal, environment artist at Wardson Softworks, and today we will be taking a look at creating this patterning signpost effect in Unreal Engine using very simple nodes to create this patterning animated material inside it. Here is our material, and that's what we're using. And I like to go reverse engineer it instead of just dragging and dropping nodes, because those things it's I don't find it as iterative as possible. Breaking it down is much more fun, and it's also way more less time consuming, so I like to go with that. So the first things first, stepping pattern time is probably, you might have heard of it if you haven't used before. It's basically one of the animation nodes in Unreal Engine that allows you to create an animation to your material. It's basically stepping pattern. It's pattering across to the values that you've defined. So we have a stepping pattern time. We could just add one by right clicking and searching stepping pattern time like that. And then we have time speed and jump amount per step. The time speed is basically your speed which the patterning is affecting, so it's way more faster or slower, and it's using a constant one factor. So just holding one and pressing left click to an empty space will get you one like that. It's a parameter that you can change and play around with, and we're using vector 2 node to set around jump amount per step. So these are the tools that you're going to play around to see which one suits you the most. If you want it faster, you can do that. If you want more jump amounts per step, you can play with these and you should get your look. Where of course, because we're using a texture coordinate, texture sample, we have to mash that with the texture coordinate, add it together with the stepping pattern time, and set that to our UV. Now for this, if you're using an alpha picture like this, so just black and white, it's more flexible because you can change the color. So this white is going to be any color you want, or the background can be any color you want, and those are defined by these 2 nodes here. One of them, for example, the redness comes from this, and the black background comes from that. So if I were to change these, let's go with like yellow kinda. As you can see, it's also changing the background. So you could also just bring in a texture that's colorful. It doesn't have to be an alpha, but I highly would suggest you to go with an alpha because it's way more flexible. You might not like the colors, and you don't want to go back in Photoshop and change it when you can do it all in here. And it's also very simple. It's using a vector 3 node, which is color, and then it has 2 of them, which is the background and like the white, which is resembling one of them, and the black is another one, and we're lerping them together, and the alpha is used from the values coming out from our texture sample. And then we're multiplying it so that we can change the emissive intensity. So we have a multiplier and then another vector 1 node to tell how bright our emissive is going to be. So you can also multiply that as well, and then plug that into our emissive. That's all about how simple this is. As you can see, it's very, very easy to do. Now, the second thing that I would like to come across is this grid texture. Basically, it's I've got this from I forgot its name. I'm definitely gonna put down the link description below. It's basically for if you want to get that tiling small block effect, especially in like pixelated effect, you can use this. I'll definitely link the description. I think that guy was one of the things. He really helped on that. So it's using 128. It's very small in terms of resolution because we're going to tile that. We don't want big blocks. Instead, we kind of bring in pixels effect, and therefore pixels are small. So it's 128 by 128, and the texture is very simple. It's just, you can do this in Photoshop, just a black border, and then the opaqueness comes from top to gradual decrease. It's becoming more translucent in the middle, creating that, I'll show you in a second. It's basically more glow in the center and then more dark on the sides, which tend to happen with pixels, especially old displays. Now, this is not proper on anything that does not have a proper background, but if I were to change this to, let's go with yellow. Yeah. And what we can do is basically, this is another texture sample which has a texture coordinate. You have to plug that in so that we can tile that across accordingly. we're gonna add another lerp node by pressing L and right clicking, and then we're gonna put one of the values coming out from the other lerp, and then we're gonna plug in the RGB node coming from here, and then finally we'll plug this to here. Pardon, alpha. That's my mistake. There you go. Because this is also an alpha map. It's black and white. And this is where the texture coordinate comes. As you can see, because I've set it to 50, it's too big for my liking. So if you go with 100, let's say, as you can see, that looks a lot better. So if we were to save this and look at our scene, as you can see, perhaps it's a bit too much, but we're getting that effect. So let's go ahead and decrease this. Let's go even with, no, let's stick with 50 still. Let's see how that'll look. So these are things that you want to experiment like that. So I think it looks good, but I'll stick with what I had before. I'm not going to use that effect for now because I think this already looks good as is. So just black, save that, and we get that effect. Now the material in the background is pretty much the same. It's actually way more simple. It's again pattering. It's not stepping pattern time because it's just simple pattern that I wanted to have. They're very small. There's no jumps. It's more smooth. Therefore, it's just a simple pattern, but everything else is the same. As you can see, it's an alpha, and then I define the color by node vector, three vector node. That's allowing me to get this, and this is just a texture that I've made in Photoshop, and it's working across it. And that's how you can create super easy this animated effect. You can put this especially on like buses where they show the direction they're going, their bus lane. So I think it's a very simple effect that you can create in Unreal Engine. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.